All right, we'll continue with USC coach Lane Kiffin and junior quarterback Matt Barkley. Coach will have you make an opening statement, and then we'll take questions from the media.
Well, we're excited to be here. First Pac-12 Media Day. So exciting. I think back to a year ago at this event, so much has changed. With the two new teams coming in, how competitive it's going to be. I got to think as you look at it, it's the most competitive the conference has ever been in its history, and we're excited to be part of that. Obviously, a lot of credit goes to Larry Scott and his staff for not just expanding the conference, but so many ideas outside of the box. The Friday night championship game, whether we know there's football being played, it's very exciting. To be part of that is pretty special. Right now, as we look at USC, there's a lot of great things going on. Starting with the John McKay Center, $70 million facility, 110,000 square feet. It's ahead of schedule, it's moving along. All of our student athletes will be housed there, and it's going to be real special. As we look at USC over the years, the one thing that we didn't have is we were behind facility-wise. And so this allows us to catch up with other people and hopefully even move past the majority of them. Also, welcoming our signing class. This is a very deep class coming in. It will address a lot of our issues. Most of those guys are on our campus now, and to have those guys in fall camp will really help us in a lot of areas, especially in the front seven on defense and with the offensive line. And also to increase our speed. I think there's some skilled guys in this class that really can help us play faster and be more explosive on offense especially. As we look at also in this offseason, 9 more players being drafted, as many as any team in the country. I think that speaks volumes for USC. You continue to get the questions about player motivation and not being able to play in a bowl game. But the majority of our guys that come to SC come to get their degree from USC and come to play in the NFL. And so to have 9 more guys drafted, it now makes USC to have the most draft picks in the history of college football, I think speaks volumes, and we look to continue that. 22 players will return that have started for us before. And so some of those guys only 1 or 2 games, but we do have a lot of experience, guys that have been in our system. And so as we go into our second year, we look for those guys to be leaders, but there are a lot of areas where guys have played for us more than we had going into last offseason. As far as the appeal process, we're glad it's over. We're disappointed in the decision, but it is what it is, and we worry about what we can control. We're moving forward. And at least we know what it is now. And so it's not hanging over our head. We don't have to deal with what may happen. We've had a very specific plan in place since the decision first came down before the appeal of how to deal with this. I think we're maximizing it by what we've done and what we're going to continue to do to make the most out of it. Very proud of our players as you look over the last year and a half of how they've handled themselves in these trying times. It's a privilege to play at USC and to be a student athlete there. And so you saw an incident happen here lately. I think that we dealt with that with Mark Tyler in a very swift manner, and we took it very serious. When you play football at USC, you represent a lot of great players, but you represent a very powerful alumni. And so after watching what Mark did, none of us felt good about it. The decision that Pat Hayden and I made together, we're on the same page, and Mark has to get right. So until Mark gets right, he won't be back with our program. And so 1-game suspension is one thing, but to go on top of the 1-game suspension and to not let him train with our guys, will set him back. And so hopefully he'll get right. Last thing, to be in our second year for our staff, to be around each other, learn about each other going into the second season, but most importantly, our players. We had never played, we had never been on the field with these guys before a year ago, and so we hadn't been to battle with them. And so we know a lot more about our roster. And going into the second season this fall, it's going to really help us as we figure out where to put all these new guys and where do we put everybody in place. As you look at our offense, 5 returning starters that come back, hopefully we'll continue to improve on last year. We improved in almost every offensive category last year. Starting with up front, Khalid Holmes will move to center. This is a very important move for us. We do a lot of stuff in our offensive system. Khalid's a very smart football player, and so he'll help us up front there because he's going to have 2 new guards next to him. Matt Khalil could be one of the elite left tackles in all of college football. Did some great things for us last year as he goes into his junior year. We expect a lot of great things from him. Red Ellison returns at tight end. Really, is a true Trojan by the way that he plays, by the way that he practices, by the way he handles himself. Look for him to move him around a lot as a tight end, but then also to continue to play on special teams. Robert Woods, after being named Pac-12 Freshman of the Year last year, comes back. trying to take him to the next level so he can be one of those elite receivers that we've all seen here before at USC, get his catches up in that 80, 90 catch range and have a great season for us. And then lastly, the quarterback. Really, we sat here a year ago and said the same thing. Our goal for Matt is to improve his decision making. And as you look at what he did last year in the touchdown interception ratio, and improved a lot there. And now we need to go to the next level. So he can have one of those seasons like we've seen here before with Carson or Leinart or John David or Mark Sanchez, have one of those elite seasons coming up this season. Obviously, our other positions, there's a lot of inexperience there, especially with the offensive line, so a lot of those new guys are going to have to be plugged in. On defense, we have to improve everywhere on defense. This really, as we go back, it's hurt us so many times last year. You look at if we just played 2-minute defense, and in the games, we can be 11-2. And so there's a lot of areas to address, but specifically on defense, our back end, 2-minute defense and explosive plays. We give so many explosive plays last year. I think our defense line has potential to be a very strong group. We've moved Devon Kennard from middle linebacker to defensive end. I think as you look at this conference, how it's spread out, it's not like it was when we were here before. And so it's more important to not have big linebackers, but to have fast defensive ends. So we put him back to defensive end, which is where he's played before his whole high school career. So with him there, with Nick Perry and Wes Horton, we think that's 3 really premier defensive ends there. Inside, Christian Tupu and DeJon Harris return, as well as some young guys. Armand Armstead, we still don't know anything different on his health. Hopefully he'll be there to give us a great rotation inside. Look back to last year, one of the things we didn't have, we had no rotation on our defensive line. Way too many guys were playing 60, 70 snaps instead of rotating, and they're playing 40 snaps a game. Linebackers, moving to Devon means that Chris Gallipo will be the Mike. Outside of that, we don't really know very much. A lot of guys are going to get opportunities there. Shane Horton's really the only guy with much experience coming back. And then we have 2 redshirt freshmen in Deion Bailey and Hayes Pillard that had very good springs that we look for out of them, including 3 incoming true freshmen linebackers. The DBs, TJ McDonald, really hoping for an All-American season out of him. Really did some good things last year, had a great spring for us. Very tough player, just like his dad. Knocked a tooth out in spring practice, came right back, played with it. This kid's a special kid, so we look for him to have a great season. Nikel Roby, I think got overlooked a little bit last year. Here's a guy that started all 13 games as a true freshman, coming from Florida all the way to USC. I believe Tim knows these stats, I believe he's the first true freshman to start at corner since World War II, when Pat Hayden and J.K. McKay were playing for us. That was my first bad joke of the day. The other safety spots all up for grabs, as well as the corners. And with Nikel, we look for him to have a great season, as well as use him on returns. Special teams look to be improved there. I think this is where we improved the most from the year before we got here to last year was our special teams. John Baxter came in from Fresno State, where he'd been for 13 years. We blocked 9 kicks last year. Really did a good job. We're going to have to break in 2 new kickers, a new kicker and a new punter. So that'll be a big challenge for us there. And in closing, really just to get back to the field. So much stuff in this offseason going on with USC and around us that I really think is behind us. And so we can get back to the field, hopefully have no distractions, and just get back on the field and coach and our players play, which is why we came here. And I think that it's a very competitive schedule. All BCS teams. One of the reasons these guys come to SC is to play the best. Obviously the conference is going to be so strong, continuing the Notre Dame rivalry. It's going to be a very competitive year for us. And then to have the NFL back, it's something that's real special to all of us. Obviously would be missed, so it's great to have that back. So with that, I've eaten up all the time, so there's no hard questions you can answer me right now. So we have 1 minute left, and Matt's going to announce he's coming back for his senior year.
Every time he says that.
You're up.
About statement?
We'll go ahead and
Do you
take
have a statement or question?
We'll take questions from the group. Okay. Question right here in the front.
This question is actually for Matt Barkley. Matt, what is it? Can you talk a little bit about just having, the top receivers to throw to now with Woods and Farmer?
Yeah, I have quite the arsenal at my disposal this year with receivers, and Robert will be back, and my coach said we'll be hoping for more out of him this year. And George Farmer is a special receiver too, taller and bigger, and I would say faster than Robert Woods. So we'll see how he progresses in this fall camp. And another receiver from the same high school, they all came from Sarah, from Gardena, right down the street from USC, is Marquise Lee. And so those three guys will be able to help us out. And not to mention all the guys we already have with Bryce Butler, who's returning for us. He was thinking of leaving, but he's coming back. I have a good relationship with him. Good timing with us, too. Markeith Ambles is going to be a great receiver for us. Brandon Carswell, who has kind of been under the radar in the last couple of years, but has been a consistent receiver for me. I trust him a lot. Runs great routes. He'll be a senior, kind of the older guy of that group, the veteran. I feel like I'm missing someone. Devon Flournoy. I mean, the list keeps going on and on about guys who can help us out. I mean, Kyle Prater, who was injured during last fall, even injured during the spring, but a big 6'5" receiver, an X type of guy like Mike Williams or Dwayne Jarrett, who we haven't really had the last couple of years. He'll be able to help us out a lot. So we have all this skill and we have all these players, but I think we'll finally be able to turn that into production. And these off-season workouts that we've been doing have been great to get timing, but have a special group on our hands.
In the back right. Right in the center in the back.
Matt, how do you plan to personally differentiate yourself in the, quote, conference of quarterbacks, especially when you have Andrew Luck in the same league? I
think being consistent this whole year and not, I guess, trailing out like I did the last 2 years, but finishing this year strong. And I know what I'm capable of, but being consistent the whole year, keeping a strong completion percentage and raising that ratio of my touchdown to interceptions and keeping that through the whole year. And ultimately, it's all about wins and losses. And we had a couple of losses last year that were right in line. And I think by reversing those and winning more games this year, we'll be set.
It's in the back right.
This is for both of you. There was a lot made last year about motivating your team to play under the sanctions and no bowl game and stuff like that. How have you found your experience this time around, in the last year of the major sanctions?
Well, I think weekly it really doesn't matter that much. There's a lot of build-up before the season about no bowl games and talk about it. But once you get going, you're into practices, you're walking down that Coliseum, you're getting ready to play. I really don't think they think much about that. Matt can talk more about that. And then, as I mentioned before, our guys come to USC to get a degree from a private university and to go to the NFL. And that's still there for them, so none of that's changed.
And we're not thinking about the negative aspects of the season. We have so much going for us this year, and so much talent and a special team with the character and leadership that we have on this team. We're taking it one game at a time and not worrying about that time right now. When it comes, we'll deal with it. But as of now, Minnesota is on the game plan. That's our schedule, and one game at a time, 1 week at a time. That's what we're doing.
A question right here in the center.
Coach Kiffin, Matt brought up a point about having all this talent on wide receiver. At any point of the season, do you think you'll feel to move any of them to defensive back?
I don't know that. We know our guys are going to start out, but we always look at that. Marquise Lee's a guy like that who was a great safety as well in high school, and so we'll always look at that and we'll figure it out.